Awakening no longer needs to be these stories where you hear someone saying, oh, my awakening took me 10 years and I was living under a bridge with a raccoon or something crazy. It's no longer like that. The only reason awakening used to be that painful is because there was no experts around to integrate the whole, and humans had to go through really long and painful search missions to search the right teachers, to search the right gurus. And what you're lucky to have right now is that we're here, we're integrated, and we know how to treat the whole. Hi. So awakening is such a wide subject. I am not going to address everything about awakening here, but I do want to get to a very peculiar point by the end of this video, which is awakening is only really hard when we don't have the right supports and the right tools, and when we're not ready to what we're going to face. Years ago, at least, like when I started experiencing awakening around 6 years ago, was so mystified. It was almost like demonized. It was something that would make people seem crazy. Right now, it's normal. Right now, it's something that we're all going through, and I want to share with you some understandings that are going to really help you if you're going through an awakening. So the first thing of awakening and what we're going through collectively, it's understanding that we're part of something bigger and understanding that there is no separation. So we're coming to a sense of oneness and we're coming to a sense of unity. And there is two parts of it. One is the bigger understanding, understanding that we're part of Earth, understanding that we're part of the universe, relationship that we have with the all. And two is what that means for the individual and what that means for the ego. That's the difficult part. So one, awakening doesn't have to be this like super spiritual story of like I speak to God and then I finally met God, and like it doesn't have to be so religious. It can be. For me, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's actually very scientifical. The only reason why awakening can be difficult or painful or hard is one, when our ego is holding really tight to a sense of identity and we don't want to drop the masks because we don't know what else to identify with. And two, when we don't know how to replace what we're dropping. That's where confusion, being lost comes in, right? So obviously we're gonna hold tight to the mask or the sense of identity we have, or this lie we live under, because if I drop it, then who am I, right? If I'm not that person anymore, then where do I go? Like, what do I do, right? So in awakening from our individuality, from what am I doing here, what am I supposed to do now, is you are the co-creator of your reality. You are right now and you will always be. But really truly owning that narrative is I can do whatever I want. I can be whoever I want to be. My health is my responsibility. I create my health. I create my emotional world. I create my financial situation. I created my relationships. I created everything I have manifested around me is a direct reflection of my belief systems, what I believe I am able to or capable of, and what I don't, right? So becoming the co-creator of your reality is the biggest part of the awakening, is where things can like start shedding and getting quite painful, and where things could get confusing. Shedding is dropping the masks that you unconsciously wear. So shedding means dropping all the things that you do automatically because you were told to. Shedding means knowing that nothing is set in stone and all our social rules are just invented rules by humans just like you and me. And that there's things that we have to comply to respect the order and the rules of the society we live in, so not committing crimes. But there's the majority of the rules that we live under are just invented statements that are not an absolute reality in the way we carry it, right? So starting to divide the person that you were forced to be and molded to be, how you were molded to be part of the economical system, right? So which career were you molded to study? You know, what did you believe you were able to? Did I have implanted in my family system that I am a millionaire entrepreneur? Or did I have implanted in my family system that we work really hard, very long hours, and it's so hard to make it because we are Mexican? Awakening is usually painful because when everything falls as this just the stories we tell ourselves, when everything falls just as the stories they are, and we're left with masks, and we're left with choice. Am I choosing this story, or does this story choose me because of the place I was born? We are confronted with the reality that everything we're doing is our choice now because we're no longer children. Things start getting tricky. And the only reason things get tricky is because our ego wants to hold on to the things that give it a sense of identity. So what makes me me, right? So if I am not that person who is Steffi, how do I present myself? Ultimately, in your awakening process, when you come to realize that this is all a role play, and that you are here to play whichever role feels best and makes the most sense to you. The reason there is so much misery and so much unhappiness on earth is because we weren't raised to truly listen to our calling and what we really wanted to do, and we didn't have the chances to be educated to fulfill a purpose that was the most aligned with our energy, with our impulses, with what we really wanted to do. So as we awaken to this possibility to start listening to what we really want to do, to start shedding all the shoulds and shouldn'ts, and naturally shedding toxic relationships, naturally shedding toxic jobs, naturally shedding toxic habits that actually don't even feel deeply good to us. When we start shedding all of those things, we are left with this blank page of co-creating whatever you really, really want to do. The most amazing part of the collective awakening right now, and the most amazing part of you experiencing your awakening right now and not 10 years ago, is that right now there's so many experts. There's so many spiritual psychologists. There's so many humans that have gone through it the hard way, me included, that can help you, integrate you, and guide you in all the 3 dimensions of your awakening. And this is where I wanted to go. I witnessed so many of my awakening buddies, me included, being so lost, being so disintegrated because we didn't understand that working on one thing would mean we're disintegrated on the other. What does that mean? Healing body, soul or energy, and mind. Body, soul, mind. If you are only working on your soul, if you are only working on your energy, if you're doing 3,000 ayahuascas, and you're constantly communicating with universal consciousness and constantly doing things at a soul level, doing things at an energy level, which are so beautiful and so easy to spiritually bypass, and you don't integrate the belief systems and the mental stories that have you living in a trauma story, no matter what, eventually, if you don't heal the mind stories, if you don't really integrate those stories and replace them with something useful, you will go back to your habits. You will go back to the trauma stories. You will go back to that trail that has you living in your lower self. Awakening is 3-dimensional. Awakening is not just doing one thing. Awakening is not just doing one ayahuasca. Awakening is not just doing yoga. Awakening is not just meditating. Awakening is not just going to therapy. Awakening is doing all of them. Awakening needs you to integrate the whole. I really wish I knew this. So, collective awakening is real. If you are holding back on doing practices, if you are holding back on truly surrendering to this work, if you're holding back to your ego stories and your masks because you don't know how to do it, because you're scared of what's going to happen next, because you're scared if you will even like your husband or your job afterwards, the longer you postpone this, the more you're holding yourself back from living your most authentic life and self. The longer you don't do this work, the longer you're living in a mask and in this pain story of someone that you're actually not even meant to be. Awakening no longer needs to be these stories where you hear someone saying, oh, my awakening took me 10 years and I was living under a bridge with a raccoon, or something crazy. It's no longer like that. The only reason awakening used to be that painful is because there was no experts around to integrate the whole, and humans had to go through really long and painful search missions to search the right teachers, to search the right gurus. And what you're lucky to have right now is that we're here, we're integrated, and we know how to treat the whole. There's so many spiritual teachers and gurus now that are working on the 3 dimensions of the being, and you no longer have to go and live 6 years in India to find your purpose and to find your soul and to connect to source and to awaken to your truth and to your best self and to your life. So don't hold back your healing and your awakening because you're scared of your sense of identity, because you're scared of who you're going to be after. The only thing that's going to happen when you awaken is that you will genuinely become you. The only thing that is going to happen when you heal is that you will finally feel peace in being the fullest expression of you. The only thing that comes when all those masks and sense of identities fall is that you will finally be free to be you. You are so lucky that you are in an era where all healers and teachers have finally integrated their pain, like me, and have gone through the years of struggle and search to tell you how it is and to offer you all the tools and to offer you all the opportunities to be integrated. You no longer have to go through all of that. That's the reason why the wounded healers, and that's the reason why the witches started suffering 10 years ago, because we needed to go the long way to find all the teachings and all the material, to integrate it and to find the right potion and to find the right mix to offer the best medicine to the humans that are awakening right now, which is you.